Listen, y'all, I gotta start this video with letting the ladies know that if you're going to see Glen Powell in Twisters just to see him in this kind of hat, I've got a warning for you.
Are you seeing this? We got twins! Twins!
The southern accent is really just coming real natural with this on. Today we're discussing Twisters, the 2024 remake, sequel, requel of the 1996 original movie Twister. Let me give you a brief summary of this film in case literally all you've seen of it is Glen Powell in a cowboy hat. We'll get to that. I do not blame you one bit. Years after a tragic event, young meteorologist Kate finds herself back in her home state of Oklahoma, working with a new tech company to try to prevent the devastating damages brought by storms in the Tornado Valley. Along the way, her research is constantly interrupted by Tyler, an internet-famous daredevil and self-proclaimed tornado wrangler. I bet you can't guess who that is. This is just too fun. Okay, I'm so sorry. This hat, I was gonna order one on Prime Day, and then I found this in my closet. And yeah, it's not exactly a cowboy hat, but yeah, I'm gonna wear it for this full video, and if you have a problem with it, talk to the wall. I've actually never seen the original Twister, but I feel like the concept is pretty easy to grasp of tornado, bad, disaster film. What Twisters really blew me away with was the way in which they were able to create a storyline that was compelling for these characters, despite them being trapped in what otherwise could be a plotless movie. I think this film does a really great job both personally for the characters as well as just kind of seeing the mass destruction of these tornadoes throughout the film, of emphasizing how big the threat this is. And it's really not that far off in terms of how bad the damage is to real life. Anyone who has ever lived somewhere that has been affected by a tornado or possibly knows someone, friends, family, or just on the news across the country, specifically in the United States, in the Midwest, there are such bad tornadoes sometimes, and they're regular occurrences, and when they're not the major focus of news stories, you can kind of forget how big those impacts are for people living their lives consistently in the threat of seasons where damage is just kind of a given, and it's not really if it will affect anything, but how much and where. I think this film did a really great job of making you feel a part of one of these communities and see how truly devastating the impact is. The other thing this film did so well that I was so blown away by was the music. From the score to the sound mixing, the soundtrack of the film. It felt like a film that was so well designed to be a pop culture phenomenon and a big summer hit. I obviously loved The Fall Guy earlier this summer and still probably prefer it to Twisters. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to admit that in this literal review. There's something about Twisters and the full package of it that really feels complete compared to a lot of other movies that are coming out right now. Despite being a literal disaster film, Twisters feels very much like a celebration of the Midwest and people in the South. It doesn't simply just feel like, well, Oklahoma's where tornadoes happen, so here you go. It feels very embedded in culture and attitudes of Oklahoma and the Midwest in general, and I thought that was a really fun aspect of this film. Again, the music is just top tier. There's a lot of songs I'll probably be adding to my summer playlist. Again, the sound, I was lucky enough to see this in a Dolby theater. If you can, I insist that you do. There's only been 2 movies this year where I feel like the sound has really affected my experience. Dune and now this one. Well, I guess maybe Challengers, but both of those I saw in really elevated sound experiences, and I would highly recommend that you do. It just feels so immersive to feel your chair literally shake in the theater from the sound and impact of this tornado, even if it isn't directly on screen. That's quite amazing. I also want to praise this film's ability to create such a timeless feel. Obviously, when you're making something that's a requel or like a in the same universe as or a reference to, you need to really kind of capture that time period that it was created. So for the original Twister, the mid-90s. But here, what is so cool is we've kind of hit a moment in time where the fashions and trends of 2024 are quite similar to the mid-90s, early 2000s. And so you create what feels very timeless with these characters. Even certain aging elements that made it not feel so 2024, where Kate, the main character, she has a cracked iPhone. It looks like a little bit of an older generation. It's not like a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. You're dealing with something that feels a little bit aged and lived in this world. And all of their outfits, there's something about it that feels like you could watch both movies, even though I haven't seen the first one. I'm just assuming. You can watch both these movies back to back and not feel like a distinct difference other than kind of the camera quality, maybe special effects. It feels like it will age well and become a really strong standing disaster film. I also think they did a really great job of using familiar locations within the film. So I'm not saying like locations that we would all know. But since this is taking place in the Midwest, you could literally just have a field and be like, oh, it's Oklahoma. But I think they return us to locales like a local motel, a gas station, a little town square. So you kind of become familiar with these areas. And over the course of the film, you feel more of the impact of the disaster, and you don't feel kind of just lost in a sea of rubble and destruction, which I think you could so easily feel in a disaster film. I also really need to praise, amongst the actors and the writing, the romantic tension in this. Book girlies, this is me getting your attention. This was made for us. I don't know if it necessarily reads as that to anyone who isn't in the book world, but there's something about the way that Glen Powell's character Tyler's story plays out, and also Kate's a little bit, that really feels like, ooh, there is rich romantic tension and character design there that doesn't feel just like 2D dimensional, like I'm a tornado wrangler and I'm a smart science girl and like we're just going to be diametrically opposed foes, to quote Hamilton. It really feels like, oh, I see how these characters interact. The banter, I'm gonna tip my hat to the banter. It was so good. And I think there were just a lot of smart choices they made with this film. And then along with that banter, they're so funny. Anthony Ramos is funny in a lot of films. Daisy Edgar Jones has really fun, witty kind of timing. Like the way in which she says things in this film really hit for me. I haven't really gotten to see her in that kind of role, and I think this really showcases her range. And then of course, Glen Powell. I mean, all of these categories, the music that plays when Glen Powell is on screen, the costuming of Glen Powell, the just Glen Powellness of him. I've heard a lot of people complain like he's everywhere right now and I'm so sick of this. No, I'm here for the Glenergy. I'm gonna ride the Glen Powell fan train as long as it goes. I think he is so talented, and I'm not going to say that he's not. I really just genuinely thought he was so good in this film, and he continues the amount of charm he so effortlessly seems to have, not only in his personal life but also in most of the other roles he's played, including more ostensibly romantic roles, and he brings it here in a way that really has a lot of charm, but he can play like he's got a lot of depth hiding behind that charm too, and you see that here, and it's so good. Glen Powell fans, book girlies, we're gonna unite on this one, and Twisters is gonna be our film. Okay, we're gonna love this one. And last but not least, I kind of hit on this with the banter, but this film is funny. Despite this film's gravity of realism with how bad natural disasters truly are and how they affect people, this film really balances out with humor and creates something that doesn't just feel like a doom and gloom, intense action thriller type of film. It really makes it feel well-rounded. Your hope for a film is that it is better than the sum of its parts, but here I really think that's true. It feels like such a well-rounded film, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. Like, I can't look at any element of the film and go, this was a little off to me, or didn't really enjoy their performance, or this line was cheesy. No, it all really just worked, and I'm not saying it's like the greatest movie of the entire year, but for me, this is going to be one of those that I sneakily think about for a really long time after seeing it, despite the fact that it's not like an instant 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5. You know what I'm saying? I hope you get my drift. But that's going to be all I have for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate if you hit the subscribe button and liked this video so that I can continue to make more of them, and so that you get notified whenever I have another upload or live stream, because I'm doing some of those this summer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope y'all have an absolutely amazing day or night whenever you're getting to watch this, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye, guys.